All right, so we're doing a month of life as spiritual practice. We start out with fun, play as spiritual practice. Then we did music as spiritual practice. Last week, nature as spiritual practice. So now that we've listened to music and played around and been out in nature, and maybe you've gotten some inspiration and some downloads from the Spirit, now it's like time to make it happen. So before I bring up our wonderful speaker today, I want to just close out the month with the idea that when we go out in nature, when we go listen to the music, when we get inspired, there's this wonderful thing that's available to us called the law that Johanna talked about that makes it happen. But we have to allow it to flow through us, you see. So the inspiration, the insights you've been listening to are rooted in this, what I love this phrase Dr. Holmes has, they're rooted in the wellspring of eternal existence. The wellspring of eternal existence. There's this beautiful spring that we could just dip into. Now, how big is your ladle? If your ladle is a little small, that's it. That's the good you're going to get. If you put a bucket in there, you're going to get a bucket load of blessings. If you could put a big old swimming pool in there, just think how wonderful your life's going to be. And it's all there for you, you see. There's nothing stopping you but the limitations of your consciousness. I was thinking about last week, when I was having my inspiration this week, sitting in the garden playing around, looking at my chard, which is really tasty to the slugs and the snails, apparently. Right. But then I turned and I saw how my tomato plants were thriving, and I thought, beauty, 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 whispering, shouting at me everywhere. It's just this gorgeous thing going on. So I thought, okay, all right, so I got it. I got my inspiration. I'm ready. I'm set. Whoa. And the whoa was the stuff the habits, I mean, you look at your bank account and the amount that's in the account and then the amount at the bottom of the line of bills, they just don't seem to line up right, and the brain goes into lack mode, or maybe you're dealing with a habit in your life that you've been trying to get rid of. I don't want to label anybody, but some people sometimes they're a part of a group that's very close to the front of the alphabet, And they're thinking, oh my God, how do I get through this, Well, there is this thing in you that's desiring to get out, and that's why you're in that room at that time. That's why you're looking at your bills and you're thinking about this stuff. But we have to realize that we can move beyond that. We can change our experience. But so often we don't change experience because we're stuck in a mixed message. And I was at Reverend James Mellon. A lot of you guys know Reverend James Mellon. And he does this thing called CPR, which is, Johanna, what is it? Core, I don't know, you've only done it 9 times. Core prosperity relief. Thank you, John. Hannah. Exactly. Core prosperity relief. And in it, he gets you down into your core elements and what's happening. And he talks about mixed messages. And as I was thinking about mixed messages, it came to me that a mixed message is like circling the airport but never landing. Right? You never get into your good if you're stuck in a mixed message. Dr. Holmes talks about this. He says, a yes one moment and a no the next will hold us in the very position we want to get out of. If we're stuck in the mixed message, we're stuck where we are, and we're not going to move to the next place. We're not going to make it happen. How do we make it happen? We have a shift in consciousness, and we have the ability to make that change. It's the way we work. Dr. Holmes claimed it in this wonderful phrase. Come on, you guys know it. Change your thinking.
Change your life.
Right. But how hard is it to make that change? Sometimes very difficult because of the habits, the addictions, the way we be and looking at the bank account. Oh, the sadness, the heartbreak, the pain, the suffering, the ache. Oh my gosh, my sacroiliac, all that stuff. It's hard to think about anything else when that's happening. When you're in pain, it's hard to think that there's no pain because you're feeling the pain. You don't want to run away from that. However, in those moments, we can know that there is a moment where there has been no pain. We can realize and remember that there was a time when I had plenty of funds. There was a time that I didn't have an addiction. There was a time that I didn't need to express myself through alcohol. There was a time when I wasn't heartbroken, that I was deeply in love with my partner. All these kind of things. And we can shift our thinking by remembering those times, remembering those experiences that we once had. And that requires faith. You see, Dr. Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell, Power of Myth. In the interview, Moyer says to Campbell, so do you have faith? And he says, I don't really need faith because I have experience. Experience can help us get to our faith. I think faith is a great thing. I don't discount the faith, but I get what he was saying. When you have experience, it can anchor you in your faith. It can anchor you in your knowing that I can get past this limitation and move into my good. Faith, according to Dr. Holmes, means a conviction about something that is stronger than anything which may appear to deny it. When you have faith and combine it with experience, okay, things aren't looking that good right now, but I know that there is this thing in the universe called abundance. I know there's this thing in the universe called prosperity. I know there's this thing in the universe called proper flow and right action. I know that's there, and I have the faith that it's available to me now, and that's when we move into using the law. Now, the make it happen part is really about allowing it to happen. You see, the law is very, very perfect. And as I've said before, it doesn't speak English or Spanish or any language. It speaks the language of feeling and intention. When you get to the feeling tone, but you must be clear. You must be very clear about what it is that you want. Not circling the airport, failing to land. Not a yes one moment and a no the next moment. It takes conscious effort. Yes, the subconscious mind is dealing with millions of impulses in a second. The conscious mind, 20 or 30. But the conscious mind can override the habitual mind. If you can consciously realize you're good and stay with that and be very clear with it, know your truth, state your truth, allow it to happen, and announce it as mine, it becomes your reality. It becomes your reality. This is what we know. This is the way the universe is working. The universe says this to you. Whenever the universe makes a demand upon itself, out of that very demand is created its fulfillment. You are the universe. You are the universe. We've talked about this before. The stars, the elements that were expressed into the universe at the beginning of the universe, at the Big Bang, those elements, there are like 28 of them. They're over at the Griffith Observatory. You can go do this. You go to the exhibit. You push the button. All the elements light up that were left in the universe after the Big Bang. Then there's another button. It's called the human being. And you push that button, and like 14 of the 28 light up. 14 of the 28 elements from the Big Bang. That means that you are stardust. We are the universe, as Brian Swim says. We are the universe conscious of itself. So then when we make a demand upon ourselves, see, when we make a demand upon ourselves with clarity, with conviction, it is created. It's fulfilled through us. We get that inspiration, we get that divine idea, and then we go about baking the cookies. God don't bake the cookies, we do. Treat and move your feet. So as you take your life as spiritual practice, because it's all about spirit, you take your life as spiritual practice, and you're listening to that song on the radio, and something hits you, and you go, oh my God, write it down, talking it, oh wait, you're driving, you can't do that in your phone. If you got Bluetooth, hit the button on your Bluetooth so you can record it onto your phone and remember it for later, and then you can go about contemplating it, thinking about it, shifting your consciousness to know that, yeah, I can be a writer. I can create that idea. I can actually make the prototype of the super cool kitty litter container. Have you guys seen that on Facebook? This tri-level kitty litter thing where you lift it up and you turn it and you drop it and you never have to it's like amazing. Look at it. I'll share it on the See Me page. You can look at it later yourself. Don't tell Johanna, but I'm going to get her one. It's super sweet. But anyway, the thing I'm trying to say is we all have this. We all have these wonderful ideas, and they're sitting around in file 13 or on a table somewhere on a shelf, not getting done. Let's get about the business of making it happen. Don't waste your inspirational moment. Don't waste your time in the gap when the answer comes up and let it float off into the atmosphere somewhere. Send it out like we did love and let it heal yourself as it heals the world. And so it is. All right? Got it? All right. So now let's go to the affirmation. And before we do this affirmation, one more quick aside that came to me. Back in the day, when you had to walk to school uphill both ways in the snow, they used to say, don't use your name for your email address, right? And so I was like creating my email address, and I was first into gardening. That's when I was really into gardening a lot. I still am, but I was really into it then. And so I came up with the email address, "You are the garden." And then one day I was looking at it and I went, "You are the garden, living in a field of infinite possibilities." That became my slogan, and that was like 10 years, 15 years before I even found Science of Mind. I've been in this. You've been in this teaching your whole life. It's just finally you found this place. Thank God we found our tribe, right? So let's go. I just want to share that because this line, living in a field of infinite possibilities, means so much to me. We are living in this field of infinite possibilities. We are all gardens. We're all ready to harvest our good, all right? So let that be the feeling that you get when you read this affirmation with me. Here we go. Living in a field of infinite possibilities, I daily harvest glorious actualities. Glorious. Living for the glory of the divine. Woo! All right. So, you may have noticed my talk was a little short today. But that's because we have a very special guest. You know how much poetry means to me, how much poetry means to Johanna. And I read this book some time ago called Poetry, a Spiritual Practice. And then Johanna started this whole series of things on her website, Poetry with Johanna, and she's got Poetry of Spiritual Practice as part of her journey in bringing spirit and poetry together. And the Tuesday morning thing is absolutely fantastic. So when I was talking to my friend, Reverend Chris Collins, and she said she was having Robert McDowell come to her center to speak, I went, "Robert McDowell? As in Poetry of Spiritual Practice?" And she said, "Yeah, I know him." "Write him an email. I want him to come to us." And she did, and he did, and he's here. So I bring you now Robert McDowell. No. I'm sorry. No, the other Robert McDowell.
Him?
The other Robert McDowell.
Come on.
The good-looking one, Paulette, is so hard. Is this something, though? Huh? How about that? They even dressed alike today. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, I can hear. Great. I can hear myself now. Thank you. Yeah, it was great to discover my, my birth mother, like an hour ago. I don't know why she picked him, but anyway. I want to begin with early William Butler Yeats poem, since I want to talk about the mother. And this poem is, William Butler Yeats was Ireland's greatest poet. And this poem is called The Host of the Air. O'Driscoll drove with a song the wild duck and the drake from the tall tufted reeds of the drear heart lake. And he saw how the reeds grew dark at the coming of night tide. And he dreamt of the long, dim hair of Bridget, his bride. Then he saw young men and young girls dance on a level place, with Bridget, his bride, among them, with a sad and a gay face. The dancers gathered around him, and many a sweet thing said. A young man brought him red wine, and a young girl white bread. But Bridget drew him by the sleeve away from the merry band, to old men playing at cards with a twinkling of ancient hands. So he sat, and he played in a dream, and never thought of ill chance, till one bore Bridget, his bride, away to the merry dance. He bore her away in his arms, the handsomest young man there, and his neck and his breast and his arms were drowned in her long, dim hair. O'Driscoll scattered the cards, and out of his dream awoke, and old men and young girls were gone like a drifting smoke. And he heard it high up in the air, a piper piping away, and never was piping so sad, and never was piping so gay. The Bridget in that poem, well, she appears in all kinds of Celtic poetry, mythology, stories, and she appears in stories from all different cultures under different names. Akhmet, Kali, Mother Mary. Bridget is the mother of Ireland, and as a pagan goddess, she was always known as the goddess of the forge, the goddess of the well, and the goddess of poetry. So I'm very fond of Bridget. I pray to Bridget every day. A Bridget practice is very important to me. But yet, I understand that the Bridget is all mothers. And I have something to say about mothers. And Mother's Day, there is no Mother's Day. If I could do so, I would banish it from the calendar. Because there is no one day for mothers. Every day is Mother's Day. Every day is Lover's Day. Every day is Old Crone's Day. Because Bridget is the three-faced goddess. If you look at depictions of Bridget the goddess, and there are many of them all over the world, she usually appears as three faces. So she's frequently referred to as the three-faced goddess. And of the three faces are, of course, the maiden, the mother, and the crone. So she depicts or holds within herself the entire passage of a life, and particularly a feminine life. She was so powerful in Ireland, first the Romans wanted to get rid of her, and they realized they couldn't stop people from practicing their Bridget rituals. I mean, they tried to kill a lot of people, and they banished the rituals, they killed the priests, they killed the priestesses, but people still practiced Bridget rituals, in private. And then they came up with the great idea to bring her into the church. And so she became Saint Bridget. So Saint Bridget and Bridget, Saint Bridget is one of the few examples we have among Catholic saints, for example, who is really a pagan goddess, who was so powerful that she couldn't be done away with, like so many other goddesses were done away with. This is significant because, we are coming after a 2,000-year cycle of patriarchy. We are in the early stages of a revival of a matriarchal system, fortunately. And, the good news is that women are coming into more and more prominence and power. The good news for men is they are gradually waking up to the idea that men exist for one reason, really, and that's to serve women. To the extent to which we get that finally is the extent to which we're happy. I mean, that's a very simple secret, Men are so confused and so uneasy about their roles in society today. So if they just got that, they'd be fine. But whether they get it easily or not, they are getting it. More and more men are getting it. And which is to say more and more men are waking up, paying attention, not trying to fix things, becoming better, deeper listeners, becoming co-creative collaborators with women as opposed to dictators, bullies, abusers. This is a great moment in our time. We're living at a great moment where we are witnessing this kind of spiritual revival and gender revival, where, not to get me wrong here, I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to simply replace the patriarchy with the matriarchy. That's not right. And any enlightened woman would tell you, well, I don't want that either. Because what we'd be doing then is just flip-flopping. We'd be trading one broken, abusive system for another. But to the extent that we have, Virginia Woolf, my dearest love and author, said this in her terrific book, A Room of One's Own, which everyone should read. She said, you know, it's not enough to be woman manly or man womanly. You have to be both. You can't be one or the other. You have to be both. You have to become, each of us has the masculine and the feminine. For men, the great task is to awaken their feminine, not their masculine. They have that in spades. For women, it's of course to awaken their masculine. And then for each individual to bring those into balance so that we are capable of co-creation. Because think about it, if you're out of balance, how can you co-create anything? In the first place, you can't co-create with yourself. In the second place, you can't possibly then reach out and co-create with a partner or another person. And I don't mean just in love relationships. I'm talking about relationships at work, relationships in your family, casual relationships. These are all subject to this great new paradigm thinking that is coming into being. We're giving birth to it as we speak now. And it's happening all over the world. Of course, never happens fast enough. Progress never happens fast enough. But it's happening. And so when you're thinking about the accuracy or inaccuracy of what I'm saying, I would like you to consider Bridget, the great goddess, who, of course, as I say, stands for all goddesses, all matriarchy. She is the great symbol. But just as Mary is a great symbol, the same. I want to share a couple of prayers to Bridget that I like, if I may. This is a very simple one. It's very old. Lady of the well, the forge, and the green earth, I seek you. Warm my heart with your perpetual flame. Heal my wounds with your gentle waters. Cradle me in your mantle when I can walk no more. Bridget, I seek you. This is a more lighthearted one because, I forgot to mention that Bridget is also the goddess of beer. Because, of course, as you know, in Ireland is very important. This is the prayer. I should like a great lake of beer to give to God. I should like the angels of heaven to be tippling there for all eternity. I should like the men of heaven to live with me, to dance and sing. If they wanted, I'd put at their disposal vats of suffering. White caps of love I'd give them with a heart and a half. Sweet pitchers of mercy I'd offer to every man. I'd make heaven a cheerful spot. Because the happy heart is true, I'd make men happy for their own sakes. I should like Jesus to be there. I'd like the people of heaven to gather from all the parishes around. I'd give a special welcome to the women, the 3 Marys of great renown. I'd sit with the men, the women of God. There by the great lake of beer, we'd be drinking good health forever, and every drop would be a prayer. So, how are we doing on time? Am I running out of time? I know. And we're not running out of time. You know, we're just going to be going through a portal. I liked that last prayer mentioned the 3 Marys. Because I think we have a tendency when we focus on a deity or any type of worship, we have a tendency to think, well, this is the only one. And there really, it's not so, because every woman here is Bridget incarnate. Each of you is Bridget. Each of you is Mary. Each of you is Akhmet. Each of you is Isis. Each of you is Kali. That's the one that really scares men, by the way. Bridget as the I just want to say quickly about Bridget's provinces. You know, she is the goddess of the forge, which is fire and iron. And she is she's a terrible goddess in that regard. She, you know, will kill you if you're not right. But normally, her fire, unlike Kali, the Hindu Kali, her fire is more, think of it in terms of the forest fire that, you know, periodically, the natural forest fire that burns out old growth and makes room for new growth. So her fire is, and that's why I like the word forge, because it's a forge in which a new you is created. And of course, she's the goddess of the well, which is water, sacred water. And it's always great to make a pilgrimage to a Bridget well and pray to her there. Very powerful. But she is, of course, water is the healer. It's a healing element. The sacred water, the sacred healing. And then she is the goddess of poetry, of course, which is the original root language of all spiritual practice. We cannot be spiritual or express spirituality without poetry. How is that possible? We learn it from our earliest moments in this life. We actually learn it while we're in the womb, sloshing around in there happily, our first swimming pool. What we hear, I mean, I was fortunate. My mother played the piano and sang. So the first thing I ever heard in the womb for all those months, I was like in a front row seat of a concert. And then, of course, I got born, and it was like, what happened to my seat? Where's the piano? The poetry takes us there. Poetry takes us always to that place where Bridget resides and where Bridget is looking over us and holding us in her arms. And she's here. I look out at all of you and I see Bridgets everywhere. Divine. All women are divine in that way. They are all incarnations. You are all incarnations of the goddess. And you should never let anyone tell you otherwise or suggest otherwise. If someone is doing that to you, get away from them. Or enlist aid to come and intervene on your behalf. Do an intervention to save them. So I would just leave, I think, with that thought. I would like to think of the goddess watching over us, the goddess who is the mother always in our lives, not just our birth mothers, of course, and those that abandoned us, but our real mothers, our spiritual mothers. I'm going to close with one poem, which I really should have memorized since it's my poem, but for some reason I like memorizing other people's poems. But actually, this is a new poem. I really have never read it before. So we may find out it's not a very good poem, but it's a poem. It's called Saint Brendan Visits Bridget in Kildare. Kildare is a county in Ireland, and it is the site of Bridget's original church and well, and they're still there. Been there for thousands of years. So St. Brendan is visiting Bridget at Kildare. Beneath the copper beeches kneels one who is all as he opens and beseeches. Mother, come down from the air, come down from the cloudy horse and your rainbow chair, and show me how to change from pagan to Christian. Mother, I think it's strange to ask, except that they have done the same to you. Teach me how to pray. Take water from the well, take ash from the forge, and mark yourself. Christian, pagan, the shadow and light of you, christened in sin. Make me angel, make me demon, make me old, and make me brazen. Wound my heart with love and reason. I think that's an appropriate place to stop. I hope that all of you, thank you, I hope that as many of you as possible could join me this afternoon for a writing workshop, which will be, I promise, fun, insightful, and inspiring.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert McDowell. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Oh, really? Please. That's sweet, huh? Please do stick around. We're 1 o'clock, so it'll be time to run off and get a quick bite to eat and come on back for the workshop at 1 o'clock. In the classroom, we'll do it. Do we need to write? Do we need tabletop? Okay, so we'll do it in the classroom. All right?
You don't have to, but it would
But if you want to write, yeah, it's not, you don't have to. You know, no, this is interesting. In this class, we were teaching about meditation and journaling, and there was a point at which it said, all right, if people are freaked out about journaling, just tell them it's just writing. You know? So if you're freaked out about writing, it's just journaling. But do come. It'll be a wonderful experience. It's an adventure. Let's go into our prayer. And thank you so much for sharing the love and for welcoming our guest and his twin. It was always so, if you really like what Robert's done, you can always talk to Ron later and he'll update you on what's going on. All right. So let's go by the Bridget's Lake. Let's go stand by the lake and let that vision of water lapping against the shore. Water, such a great image for spirit. Like love, it just fills in all the space and it doesn't ask any questions. No matter the depth of the ravine or the shallowness of the field, water fills. And that's what love does. That's what God does. It just fills the space. So allow that one energy, that one presence, that one substance to fill the entire space of your consciousness in this moment. And recognize that, as the fish said, where this water, it's everywhere. What is it? It is you. It is who you are. Water everywhere, spirit everywhere, the one life. We each are living in that one life, experiencing it in faith and understanding that there is a relationship between it and us that can never be separated. So we come with an ability to not persuade, but to simply allow through our announcement of our desires, the good to flow into our lives. So in this moment, if there is something that is taking you away from the truth of who you really are, know that there is a power and a presence within you that can evaporate whatever hardship, whatever concern, whatever worry, the judgments, all of them, gone. And in their stead is truth and beauty and harmony, right action and divine guidance, inspiration and wisdom that tells you what to do, when to do it, where to do it, how to do it, and know that you are doing it now, the only time that anything can be done. So through the speaking of the word, I am activating a principle in each and every one of our lives that never gets tired of bringing the good into your experience. Use it, allow it, be it, accept it, trust it. It is you and it is yours. So I'm so grateful to speak this word and to do this reminder that knows that we are empowered with a power to create the lives, to co-create the life divine. If you feel it with me, if you know it and have the gratitude and the conviction that goes with the faith of understanding, affirm this truth by saying with me now, and so it is. All right.